Casey.
And I'm Corey.
Yeah, we are the Wright Brothers. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of Tech Corner.
And in this edition, we're going to be exploring how you can start to connect with a younger clientele.
Absolutely. Anytime you have interest rates this low, the housing affordability index this high, it means that you have a lot of new buyers entering the marketplace. And usually new buyers mean young buyers.
That's right. I heard a statistic the other day that said the average age of a realtor today is over 50 years old, meaning that when you have young buyers and you have more experienced agents coming together and trying to do a transaction, a lot of the times that sets up for a culture clash.
Absolutely. You know, one of the most common criticisms I hear from these more seasoned agents, they say that these younger clients don't have the same type of loyalty that their parents might have had. And you know, I think that's really a fallacy. I think it is possible to engender loyalty with this younger generation. It just takes some new skills, some new techniques. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today.
Well, we've got a lot of great information. Let's dive in. All right, the question is, how do you reach that younger generation, that now generation? I think one of the most important things is you need to find out their favorite method of communication.
Absolutely, and this is one of those things. I think the most important step here is don't make assumptions. Don't assume just because you read an article in the LA Times last week about how all Generation Y people love to use text messages, that that's the way you should be communicating with all your younger clients. The truth is that our generation doesn't necessarily have one preferred method of communication. It's each individual has a preferred method of communication. So for instance, I know you love to talk on the phone. I'm really big about text message and emails. I know as I talk to some of my friends, they're all about instant messaging during the day, but at night they want to do phone calls and text messages. The important thing is just to have that conversation early on, just to say, hey, what's the best way to get a hold of you? If you were selecting how you would be contacted, what would it be? How do you talk to your friends? What times of day do you like to be contacted? And make notes on that and just do that throughout the transaction process.
Certainly, there are so many more available mediums of communication. We just need to find out which is most appropriate for each person within that younger generation. Now, the second tip that we can give you is that the younger generation requires quicker but more casual responses.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think this is one of the things, you know, the now generation, you know, they want to be able to get a hold of their professionals at just about any time. You know, on one sense, you look at that and you say, that's really frustrating, but there is a trade-off for that. And the trade-off is that you're not expected to be as professional. So for instance, you don't have to be afraid to pick up the phone when you're at your kid's Little League game and just say, hey, I'm at my kid's Little League game, let me call you in an hour with that answer. So the important thing is make yourself available, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have answers instantly. You know, so just make sure that you can get a hold of people instantly. If somebody calls you, and I always make the rule, you know, with the younger generation, really 2 hours is the maximum response time. If somebody makes a call to you during business hours, you should get back to them within 2 hours, even if you don't have that answer, just to say, hey, this is when I'll have that answer for you.
Certainly, they require quicker, but certainly they can be more casual responses. Now, the third and final tip that we can give you is that it's such a community-oriented generation that it's important to include the family and friends in their decision process.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is a really big shift because if you think about the last couple generations, your baby boom generation, your Generation Xers, they're generations that place a huge emphasis on individuality. And this is the first generation that's kind of coming back, almost like the greatest generation, where they're really interested in community. And in fact, a lot of people have called this a second greater generation for that very reason. And what it means is that they include their friends, their family, and all of their decision processes. Where they go to school, where they want to live, who they're going to marry. All of these are decisions that ultimately become sort of community decisions where they're going to ask their family to help them with, their friends. And so when you get in the middle of a transaction process, the thing is you want to be open to that, first of all, but second of all, maybe you even suggest it. Especially if you get into the decision process, the transaction process, and you get stuck at some point. So let's say, you know, you're between two homes and they just can't really make a decision. Well, that's a great time to say, hey, maybe we should bring your parents into this. Maybe we should bring your friends in this decision process and see if they have any ideas that they could offer.
Certainly. So include family and friends in the decision process. I think we've seen that the younger generation who are going to start to buy more and more homes than ever. We've seen the numbers increase. There's more under 25 first-time home buyers than there have ever been before. This generation, this group of home buyers are reachable. We can start to communicate with them, we can build relationships with them, and we can be more effective than ever with them, and we can get that loyalty if we start to employ those three tactics. So first of all, figure out their favorite method of communication and use that primarily. They require quicker responses, but they can certainly be more casual. And lastly, include their family and friends in their decision process. It's going to make them feel more comfortable and more confident with the decisions that they're making. Follow those and you can really start to build loyalty with that younger generation. That's all we've got for you this edition of Tech Corner. We'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time.